Live on River City Media. This is the shooter, the bad man, the gray beard. It's your boy RC QB1. To my right is 1/3 of the fabulous Freebirds Y2K. Well, to my left now, Howie Cheney. Welcome to the show.
Oh, how's
How are
it
you?
going?
I'm fired up. I'm fired up. And I'll tell you
I'm
why I'm
anxious to
fired up.
see the. I'm anxious to see these lists tonight because I get a lot of text and group text and what y'all don't realize is individual text from each one of you to keep the other one from knowing what's going on. So I'm kind of curious about what's going to happen tonight.
That's true. Here's one reason I'm excited about tonight. I feel like this is my strongest 10 years. I will actually in this window is when I worked for the NWA WCW, so I got to know some of these guys. And then my boy JJ had gave up on wrestling and wasn't even watching it.
Yeah, that's it. I had other things going on, man. It's funny how you come back. You revert back.
Well, welcome to Mr. JJ Jeremy Johnson, the man with the state trophy behind his head.
Yeah, that's right. Not mine.
Has that trophy got anything to do with Paul Benefield?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
That actually has something to do with. Go ahead, Howie.
No, I was going to say I've got the exact same one and we got it the exact same time.
Yeah. This that has to do with a ball that is round.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Before we get started tonight, and I turn this over to Howie Cheney, I got one question to ask y'all. Did the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus segment on AEW last night make any sense to you? Why you turn him heel, and then Jungle Boy shows up 3 weeks later and he steps aside and turns back face? It made no sense. I thought they had a monster heel running going for him, and they ruined it last night.
Howie, you want to go first?
You really don't want to hear my opinion
What-
on it last
what-
night because my thoughts are there was at least 30 to 45 minutes. I had to check and make sure I wasn't watching WWE wrestling.
No.
Oh, God.
Well, look, you go ahead.
Was that Luchasaurus part of that?
That was part of it. The cake and the women's match was part of it. It's just crazy.
So Howie said that we didn't want to hear his. You might not want to hear mine, but here it is. It sucked because here's Christian has been on fire as a heel. I like the turn Luchasaurus. I like it. I like his new look. I like the fact that he's just pummeling people instead of trying to do all these kicks and things of that nature. I think he needs to stay with Christian. I know they're trying to get Jungle Boy over, but he needs to. I think they left it open. The good thing is they did leave it open, even though he walked away with him. We don't know for sure. Here's something that ought to be a litmus test because I think both you guys listen to Jim Cornette some. Jim Cornette on his podcast and Brian Last both. Now he calls him Dino Douche. It's what he calls Luchasaurus, but they were both saying, "Hey, this is not a bad thing for him."
Nope.
Being big, said he looked good. And it's not, and they'll just kill it if they go back. I don't know what they're doing. So I didn't like that. I'll tell you what, I hate the fact, I got my tape measure. I hate the fact that you let a rapper now, knock down the world's premier athlete, Tony Nese. What the heck are you doing? That's if I'm Tony Nese, I'm like, I left this garbage to come here, and I'm letting whatever that guy's name is, I don't even know who it was, knocked me down, and I stay down. It's garbage.
And also, we talked about Brody and Darby. Great it was, but are you just throwing Darby Allen away to get Brody over? I mean, come on. 2 times to him now on TV. Got to
Darby,
get that.
man, I like the fact they're getting Brody over. I like him. I like him a lot, but at the expense of Darby, man, you got enough guys from Dark Elevation that he could throw around like a rag doll like that. So, yeah.
I was offering this water to Jeremy to calm him down a little bit.
I mean, I'm not normally overly critical, but I'm like, man, what are you doing? I lost interest.
And the women's match come out, which everybody knows I got a big Chris Statlander is my favorite. And then all of a sudden she's let to wrestle. She's got a new look, a new angle, and you take her off of TV. Anyway, it was one of the worst efforts I thought for AEW. But
Britt Baker, they've took her off TV basically. Why are you taking Britt Baker? Why don't you not see her but every couple of weeks? That's crazy.
Did not like that show, except for, and I didn't like the finish. I thought Kingston Jericho was great until the finish. The finish was dumb.
That was a cluster. That was just a cluster there at the very end.
One of my friends that likes wrestling texted me and said, when did AEW start doing the TNA finish? That was
my best part was when Ty Conti had that key and she couldn't they got to let him out of the shark cage and she's fumbling with it. It catches it on camera, and then two of the thinner guys, they just kind of eat Garcia and whatever one of the guys, that other guy, they slipped through the bars. It was great. It was funny. It was funny though.
Last comment on this by me is that last night's show appeared to be like it was their first or second show to ever be on TV.
It was not a good night.
Some of the production, even the production stuff, not the wrestling, the production of it's like,
and that's just not a normal show. That's Fighter Fest. That's one of their biggest shows here.
Yeah. So, you know what? Here's something I want to throw this in here. I know I'm stringing this out, but you know, I actually like the fact that they've taken Jim Ross. I love Jim Ross. I think he's awesome. I love him. But I love Taz on commentary. Taz, Tony Schiavone, and then Excalibur. And I like the fact they're bringing Ross out like that. So now you hear him on Rampage.
Get a little bit.
But when he comes out, he gets a little bit of a crowd reaction, right? They start playing Boomer Sooner and all that. And I don't know why they don't let him get sit down and say, hey, guys, you know, whatever. They start somebody else's music before he even gets set down, you know.
Well, now that we're bringing up technicalities, Danhausen is your hottest thing going.
I love it.
And you bring him out and you tease him getting a match for the FTW World Championship. And Rick Starks, who's supposed to be this bad A, backs down from Danhausen. Come on, man. I love Danhausen. But you don't back down Ricky Starks from Danhausen.
Look, Ricky Starks and Hobbs are underused. Danhausen is being used perfectly. His facial expressions right there with the camera. Oh, it was great. So the guy can actually wrestle. He's not just a gimmick. He can wrestle.
He can go. He was. I actually saw him on the Indies once, and he wrestled a legit 50 minutes straight, no gimmick match.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah. So,
all right, we've wasted 10 minutes. Started on.
I got a question. Quick question for both of you. Do you think they're bringing Jim Ross at the top of the hour to try to bring excitement to the crowd because of it being kind of dead?
I think so.
I read that Jim couldn't work 2 hours anymore, that he was starting to have physical trouble working 2 hours. So that the way that you can use him and still get a little bit.
Well, he stays out there though for Rampage also, so he's basically staying out there 2 hours. So
I think they get a break in between Rampage though.
it's pre-recorded, or they're recording it, so yes.
Yeah.
So
and obviously it then goes into Rampage.
Yeah. I think it's good.
You've done enough high school football, you know. Second half sometimes can drag on a little on you. So.
Especially when you're calling football at 5.
Yeah. I'm gonna take him off camera after that comment. All right.
I'm just saying.
Got the advantage, be up 55-0 at half.
That's right. You better work on some material.
All right, guys, we're here for WCW top 10 tag teams of 20 years that they was in existence. So, last start with Jeremy. We will start with QB1 RC. What is your number tag team?
I do not have a tie at number 10. I do have a tie at number 7. So I at number 10, I give you a team that could. Well, you'll understand when I get to 7. I think everybody will give me 7. I think a team that could have been bigger. They were both individual stars early on. They both kind of had that drug issue in the WWE when they were getting a big push. I'm going to give you Chronic with Brian Clark and Brian Adams. Of course, Crush and what was the Bomb, Adam Bomb in the WWE. They come to WCW. They're put together in a tag team. They're in black leather pants, black shirts. They got that cool 90s rocker vibe to them. Win a couple of titles, but I think their outside the ring issues might have brung them down again. But I thought Chronic was a great team that should have went farther than they did.
Wow.
Jeremy.
All right. I do not have a tie. However, I second guess everything I'm going to say tonight. But at number 10, multiple time champions, never was really my favorite. I give you Jerry Sags and Brian Knobbs, the Nasty Boys.
Randall's reaction is they're going to be on his up there. That's the 7 he's talking about. So, Jeremy, go ahead and do your number 9.
Hey, what can I say?
What do you got at 9?
Oh,
we got
you
9,
want me to? Oh, okay. Number 9. Two very well known single stars had a short run. One became probably one of the greatest stars in WWE history. One's career was cut short by injury. I give you stunning Steve Austin, Brian Pillman, the Hollywood Blondes.
Great. You might hear that again in my list, but much higher. Much higher.
So,
great guy. They both could work.
Hollywood Blondes should have been the team of the 90s. The WCW ought to put a rocket ship on Brian Pillman and Steve Austin and rocket them to the top. And they were there, and it was like they were so over. Man, you know wrestling politics. I believe this. They were so over that the Horsemen got jealous of them. That's what I.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the other thing. I heard Steve Austin say this, that, that had the whole Stone Cold thing not taken place, and if he and Pillman had stayed together, that he was very confident that they would have been one of the greatest tag teams in the history of wrestling. And I agree with that.
I'm very – and Stone Cold loved Brian Pillman. The gold chain he wore around his neck was a gift from Brian Pillman to his death.
Awesome. I did.
You can look in the the Stone Cold stuff. There's this gold chain. That was the chain that Brian Pillman, he said that when Pillman and him got put together, because this was supposed to be, he was supposed to get, they were going to give him Harley Race, the manager, not Vader, and put the U.S. strap on Steve Austin with Harley Race. He shows up for a TV taping. Pillman walks up to him and goes, "Hey, man, we're a tag team." He goes, "No, I'm getting a U.S. strap with Harley." And he goes, "Not now. Dusty just said we're a tag team." He said initially he was mad, but Pillman come to him and said, "If we're going to be a tag team, let's do it right." They got matching vests, matching necklaces. They looked like a world championship tag team. All right. Number 9, my facial reaction was at number 9, I give you a team I hate. I grudgingly put them on the list. One of my least favorite teams ever. Believe that they got over because Brian Knobbs is Hulk Hogan's brother-in-law. I give you the Nasty Boys, multiple-time world champions, fat, out of shape, Hulk Hogan brother-in-law, loving Nasty Boys.
There we go. I got them ranked correctly then.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. All right.
And I didn't know where to put them. They were up and down the list, and there were other versions. But what I finally came down to was who was the most over top of the thrown together tag teams. And I kept coming, there was Wyndham Luger, Sting, Steamboat, Shane Douglas, Steamboat, Barry Windham, and Dustin Rhodes. But I believe if most people in their mind was thinking about a WCW tag team, they'd come up with the Icon Sting and the Total Package Les Luger. So I'll give you Sting and Luger at number 8.
Oh, wow.
That's a little surprising because of the careers that both of them had. You think a little bit higher, but also Luger and Sting was the best individual workers. They got up with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Their work wasn't good. You ever notice they couldn't put the title on them for a long run? But what they could do is bring them in to work with a huge team like Doom or the Road Warriors or the Horsemen. They were so physically imposing, they didn't L in comparisons to some of those monster heels. Even the Skyscrapers, they didn't, you could put them in there and they didn't shrink. You couldn't put Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson in with Mark Callis, The Undertaker, and Dan Spivey, or Mark Callis and Sid Vicious. You just couldn't do it. It didn't physically look. It didn't look right. And back then, it was all about the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Okay,
wow.
Jeremy, you're right.
All right, number 8. We talked a little bit about one of these gentlemen in our group text, and you could put him on multiple tag teams throughout the years. But I give you the Enforcers, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko. The reason why, well, I don't think I have to explain. Arn Anderson, and that's all you have to say. Later became a part of the Dangerous Alliance.
And that was not just a thrown together team. They were together for years. And you might hear that name again at number 7 along with my tie, but just foreshadowing. But I think that's a great team. And it really, Larry Zbyszko was legit Tully Blanchard's replacement.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't put Zbyszko in the Horseman and just let him be, because Zbyszko was a natural horseman. You bring Arn back and now you've had Arn, you've got Ric Flair, you've got Barry Windham back. You don't have Tully. They bring Ole back. I think it would have been much better for them to put Zbyszko in that spot.
I agree with that. And, they ended up, I think, a little bit of my extensive research, I'm being sarcastic, but they ended up being the tag team of the year in 91.
They were great.
So, PWI tag team of the year. Had a short title run of about 75 days. But that's a good team.
Worked great together.
Mm-hmm. It's a good combination.
Me and Randy has done quite a few of these wrestling podcasts, and there are certain individuals that we have said that you could put with a broomstick and it'd be a 5-star match. And Arn knows that you could put him and a broomstick as a tag team partner, and it's going to be a heck of a match.
No, I agree with that. I love Arn Anderson. I feel bad. I hate that his career was shortened with that neck injury. All right.
So go ahead, number 7.
Number 7. I tried my best not to put repeats from the NWA on my list, but I could not put at number 7 Beautiful Bobby, Sweet Stan, accompanied by Jim Cornette, the Midnight Express. The reason I put them so low, because I had them at number 2 in our NWA list, is their stint here was very short.
Very short.
It was what it was, but it was very short. But you can't take that away from that Sweet Stan. They actually feuded with Paulie's version of the Midnight Express for a short period of time. So that's Dennis Condrey and
Randy Rose.
I saw some video footage of that the other day. It was kind of cool.
It's awesome. And I won't have them on my list, but let me tell you, and here's why. I didn't try to repeat, and I made it, but that one feud almost deserves to get them on the list. But that feud ended horribly. Mm-hmm. The pay-per-view Capital Combat was supposed to be Midnight versus Midnight. They fired Randy Rhodes right before that. Stupidest move ever. And also, Jim Cornette secretly had already started Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he was out of the WCW. But if you remember correctly, he did bring the Heavenly Bodies back W for a little while.
So the video footage I saw, Cornette got busted open. He's bleeding on his white jacket. It's great.
His intro to his podcast, Who Bled Aggressor in a White Suit. That's awesome.
Okay, Randy, your number 7?
My number 7 is a tie, and I'm going to explain my tie to everybody. I'm going to give you the enforcers.
Well, I can tell you the reason you have a tie right now. I can tell you why you got a tie, because you always want 11s in here.
Arn Anderson. Go. But they were in the Dangerous Alliance together. And this was based on the Dangerous Alliance. And after a while, they took Zbyszko and put him back in a singles competition. And while they didn't call them the Enforcers, they moved Bobby Eaton over while in the Dangerous Alliance, and they won the World Tag Team Championship together. So I'm going to give you the Deadly Dangerous Alliance, but I'm going to give you the combination of Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Bobby Eaton as a tag team. I'm using the Freebird rule right here.
Wow. I'm in. Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson. I'm in.
I'm all in, but it's really I wanted to get Bobby Eaton in, and I didn't want to put the Midnight Express in. All right, number 6. I'm probably going to regret who I give number 6 to, because I think they were physically the most dominating tag team of WCW history. They actually had the unification match with the Steiners that brought the NWA World Tag Team Championship together with the WCW Tag Team Championship. You can call them everything you want to, but I'm going to call them the Miracle Violence Connection. Dr. Death, Terry Bam Bam Gordy. How can you not love that tag team at number 6? And they only had one run, and I've had them everywhere from 6 to 3 on this list because they were so dominating in that one run. When we go to Japan, I'm going to go ahead and give you a foreshadowing. They're not going to be number 6 on that list.
Uh-uh.
All right. That finishes me up.
Jeremy,
My number 6. Well, you said, how could you not have Gordy and Williams at number 6? You can't, because they're my number 6 too. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Dr. Death Steve Williams. I don't want to tangle with those guys.
Hey, Cornette tells the famous story about the Freebirds when they were working in Boston, and it was Terry Gordy, Jimmy Garvin, and Michael Hayes, and they're trying to be tough guys. Midnight Express versus Steve Williams, and it actually got physical in the back, and it was Bobby Eaton that actually got mad, and everybody else backed down. So, but he was like, we liked our chances with Doc, even though they had Terry Gordy.
Oh my gosh! Hey, so I saw a video. Go ahead, Howie.
Now, quick question: Gordy and Williams versus Road Warriors versus AP in the street fight. Who do y'all have?
Gordy and Williams.
Yeah. When you said street fight, you ruined it. Now, the Road Warriors are going over all day. But you give me a guy that's a double NCAA champion in wrestling and a 4-year starter on the football team, along with a child that don't know anything but being a fighter. I like their shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a video just the other day at Dr. Death power slamming Abdullah the Butcher. Pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. He made it. I mean, you could tell it was not an easy task, but he made it look pretty dang easy.
When I was talking about who was the greatest tag team wrestler of all time, when you think before this list is over, I'm going to have Terry Gordy probably on 3 or 4 teams. He's there too, because I've already had him on the list twice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you too, Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy's coming again, and Terry Gordy and Steve Williams coming again. So,
Oof.
pretty good wrestler. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So are we getting into number 5?
Number 5, Jeremy.
Okay. So I have a feeling if anybody's watching this wanting healthy debate, there won't be much, because I have a feeling 1 through 5 is going to be a little similar like last week. But I give you at number 5, Ron Simmons, Hacksaw Butch Reed, otherwise known as Doom, as my number 5 tag team. I know I've had Ron on there before with the APA last week, but I mean, heck, how could you not have Doom on this list?
There's no limits as to how many times it can be on a list.
Right.
It makes me wonder that I've missed somebody. We'll see soon. You'll understand here soon.
All right, go ahead, Randy, with your 5.
Number 5, Stone. No, let's say it right. Stunning Steve Austin and Brian.
Oh.
The Hollywood Blonde, the most misused tag team in the history of wrestling. I mean, the misuse that they suffered is on par with FTR. They should be number 1 on this list if they would have been used right. They are that. I mean, look what happened afterwards. Stone Cold became the biggest draw in professional wrestling history. Brian Pillman became the biggest story in professional wrestling history. People to this day don't know if Brian Pillman was playing a character or crazy. If he don't get hurt, he's a time world champion. He's a multiple time intercontinental champion. He done amazing things. And let me throw this at you. Highest rated 605 broadcast. Main event, Brian Pillman versus Ric Flair. People loved Pillman. Loved his story. And I actually think they did him a disservice. Jimmy Cornette on his podcast talks about how the Midnight Express was going to get the Pillman and Zink over by basically killing Zink off and letting Pillman be Midnight Express.
Highest basically.
And WCW killed it. They wanted to get Brian Pillman over into the world title picture. Flair wanted to put Pillman in the world title position. Jim Herd, the head of WCW, didn't like him because same guy, played professional football. This is a pro football. Played middle guard in pro football. Come on, man.
Wow.
Come on.
Unbelievable.
So let me run this by y'all real quick, and I was going to wait till the end, but it's been brought up a couple times. Let me run this by y'all real quick. If they're used properly, two things could have changed in this world. One, we might have not ever got a Stone Cold Steve Austin. And two, would Brian still be with us today?
Good question. Let me go first, Jeremy, and then you can have it. I want to say a couple of things about Stone Cold. I don't think we get Stone Cold unless he gets fired. There's a very important thing that happens. Stone Cold rips his shoulder out. Eric Bischoff actually fires him via FedEx. He's out of work. Paul Heyman actually calls him ECW, and he never wrestles in ECW. He's gone too fast. But what Paul Heyman does is teach him how to shoot a promo. And his promos from WCW to WWE there's a world of difference. And he calls himself Superstar Steve Austin. And if you want to, go listen to ECW Stone Cold Steve Austin promos, and I hear the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin in those promos. Brian Pillman, I think he's still with us if it's not for the wreck. I think Pillman at the time was raising multiple kids. Of course, his son, Brian Pillman. WCW was very much underpaying him. If you've seen his Dark Side of the Ring, it was a criminal injustice what was happening to Brian Pillman. Neither the WWE or the WCW would see him as a star and give him the money he wanted. And it took him inventing the loose cannon, showing up at WCW uninvited. Jim Ross to this day will tell you, he don't know. Was that Brian Pillman or was that an act? But I think getting hurt, and the WWE went ahead and signed him to a multi-year big contract. But if you watch those matches, there's one against Stone Cold actually in the WWE. Brian Pillman was a shell of himself. It was like me. It is painful to watch him wrestle. And I think he drove himself to an early grave by continuing to wrestle and continue to compete long after his body was unable to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump right in on Brian Pillman. So, I think didn't he have to have his ankle fused?
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine how you could move. And again, that's why he was a shell of himself after that accident. And when you invest so much time in the craft and trying to be the best, and that's your life, and then now all of a sudden you can't move like you used to, I think WWE was actually wanting to move him as over to an announcer or an
Yeah.
analyst, and he didn't want to do that because he still wanted to wrestle. Really sad story, and I agree that he may still be around if he doesn't have the injury. I know that his ex-wife, which is Brian Pillman's mother, was, I think she had drug issues and things like that. So who knows? You never know. But misused. I like the loose cannon character. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Melanie Pillman just passed away, and thankfully
hmm
Brian Jr. and her did reconcile before her death.
Yeah,
So
that's good. So on the Stone Cold thing, uh, what would the world be like without Stone Cold? My goodness. Uh, you know, uh, but they here's what's crazy. The ECW thing with the promos, and that was he comes over and they turn him into the ringmaster, the
horrible.
master of the ring. Terrible. And then when it's time to change him again, or they're trying to change him, they want to turn him into Frosty McFreeze, or some goofy. I mean, look, I love these stories on how these guys come up with these gimmicks. Like Kane, his tilt was because of his dog. But the story of Stone Cold, how he got his name, that's great. His ex-wife here, you need to drink that tea. It's gonna get stone cold. I mean, my God, there it is. So I'm glad it turned out the way that it did. Now, not that Brian Pillman left early, but I think it worked out pretty good. That part of it's sad. Again,
Right.
loved seeing him healthy and have a full career, and still be living today. See his son wrestle, who I think they could do more with him. To be honest with you, he's a good wrestler.
I think that's coming. I do. I
Yeah.
think there's a new life cannon being brewed right now.
Oh,
I
how
saw
great
about
would that be?
that. Didn't mean to put a downer on it by that, but I just want to get out of the way and see y'all stop. So back to the poll, Randy, number 4.
Number 4, and you said it's already been on his list. Number 4 is his number 5 is my number 4, which makes me question if I miss Butch Reed, too badass. The only man that ever made me run away because he thought I said something that I didn't say. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, the hacksaw, just and Powered, and we can't even leave this without talking about they had Teddy Long at one point,
hmm
and then Benoit at another point. It was perfect. Nancy Benoit is woman, one of the great stories, characters of WCW, and God rest her soul, gone too soon also. But I give you number 4, Doom.
Good deal. All right, OJ, you're number 4.
All right. Uh, I think I know what Howie's questioning, and I had a late entry here that I said I wouldn't do, but that I'm gonna. I think we'll have a point of disagreement here, but at number 4, and this is not my late entry; it comes higher. But Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, The Outsiders at number 4. And let me say before anybody said, look, we all know what the NWO did for professional wrestling. They're still selling shirts. Heck, I had one on last week. They're still selling shirts. They're still doing all that. The reason I don't have them higher is because even though these guys tag team, that I'm basing it, I kind of moved them into a faction after you add Hulk Hogan, after you add, and that's where the major impact, the tag team of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash as the Outsiders, the entry into WCW, uh, again, changed the business, but as a tag team, I put them at number 4 on my list.
I'll reserve comment till later in my list.
Oh, my number 3?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So this may be a sentimental entry for me. And because their time in WCW was short, but I had to put them in there, and I didn't put them as high as I did on a couple of weeks ago. But I have to give you at number 3, Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors. I have to put them on there.
That's going to be where we differ.
I knew it.
And it's not bad. I just consider the WCW. It's less than 6
Yeah.
months. And
Yeah.
when I joked about the Road Warriors, I think they're going to be on every list but this one. So I kept them off of this list.
Yeah.
There was a point they just barely glazed the NWA to WCW. And there's another team on my list that did the opposite, that barely touched the NWA and then blazed into the WCW. And I think you'll see later, I think they were direct competition. So
Dan, I watched I don't know if you guys have watched the A&E biography thing that they're doing on wrestlers. First one was Bill Goldberg, or second one was Goldberg. First one was The Undertaker. So I watched that the other night, and they go into detail about the skyscrapers.
yeah,
And Mark Callis being a part of the skyscrapers. And so they showed some footage when Dan Spivey quit the company. He told Mean Mark at the time to follow my lead, and they beat the crap out of the Road Warriors with a chair and beat the crap. And he went and left and never came back. And that was the end of that version of the skyscrapers. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
They did beat the living crap out of the Road Warriors. Is it me? All right, number 3. Number 3 on my list. And this where I consider I start splitting hairs. I think any of the next 3 could have been number 1 team. And this was the opposite of the Road Warriors. They came in at the end of the NWA, but really dominated in the WCW. I give you, to me, the most athletic team in this era, Rick and Scott, the Steiner brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. Scott did,
Go ahead, Howie.
Scott bringing in the freaking Steiner. Nobody had ever really saw that before.
Right. Especially with a guy that size.
That was the thing. They were as big as the Warriors almost, and a lot more athletic. Both of them were legit college All-American wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is not a true sport. It's sports entertainment or whatever they want to call it. But hey, I'm not fighting Rick and Scott Steiner. I got to meet Rick and Scott back when I met Scott. He was really quiet now. But I'm going to tell you, when Rick Steiner walks in the room and you look around with a bunch of big dudes, you go, well, I'm not going to fight that dude right over there. You look at me. That's the one I'm not fighting. I'll fight you. I ain't fighting him because, 1, he's built like a spark plug, and 2, he's crazy. And that was the impression you got.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. At number 2, and this one was hard for me. I think they're the 5 years, they were the best tag team in the WCW, but their run became trash. Because unfortunately, their run started at the height of WCW and ended in the death of WCW. And a lot of people don't remember, one of the members of this team got fired. And well, I'll just go ahead and say it. Number 2 is the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Scott Hall got fired too, JJ, and disappeared. It was still 2 years on their contract. And I told Howie, my number 11 team that nobody thinks of was the Insiders, which was DDP with Kevin Nash, who they put together as a team for a while just to keep WCW going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, when they first came in and they won the World Strap and they were the Outsiders, and that's the reason I consider them a tag team. They were in the NWO, but they were always referred to as the Outsiders.
Right.
And that gave them some legitimacy as a tag team. If it was just based, if this would have been based who had the best run over 3 years or who had the best run, they would be the number 1. But the problem I have is the NWO become trash.
Yeah.
As much as I love the WCW, when you've got Buff to stuff in the NWO and
Conan.
that Sting at one point in DDP, I think everybody was in the NWO. It just got to be so trash. The NWO should have stayed at Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, six-pack, Hulk Hogan, and you could throw the Giant in as a heater, but that should have been it. 4 or 5 over. Howie, do you want something? Say something.
I was part of the NWO for a while. Nobody just knew it.
Yeah.
I think we all were.
I also would like to highlight from 1976 to 1979, starting at center for the University of Tennessee, 6'11", from Michigan, Kevin Nash.
Yep. Legit basketball player.
Yeah, hey, legit basketball player and legit changed the lives of these wrestlers today. They owe Kevin Nash and Scott Hall big thank you. Ain't nobody got a guaranteed contract before Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to set on my number 1. I'll give it over to my tag team partner.
I got, the whole time we've been going through the 5 here, I've been flip-flopping these two. and so at my number 2, again, if you're tuning in for debate, it's not happening. we're almost agreeing here. But I have at number 2 Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers. And I'm like Randall. I wouldn't want, and Randall got to lay eyes on him, but I didn't. But I know enough. I don't want to mess with Rick Steiner. I don't want, I might get in a math competition with, with Scott Steiner. But, what, Randall?
I'll go a spelling bee.
I got a 33 and a third chance of being 100% right.
I got. And before we get off of that subject, before we get to our number 1, I think we see what we talked about in group text. The WCW, their top 5, 6 tag teams could have been 5 or 6 tag teams in the WWF in any era, in the NWA. Their top tag teams were great. Down on that bottom side, I had to struggle to come up with 10 that was worthy of my list.
So when we finish, if we've got time, I got a few that I would maybe say honorable mention that I want to throw out there. But do I need to go ahead with my number 1, Howie, or do it?
Well, I'm thinking that both of y'all get the same number 1s, and Randy just played the music, so
He
go ahead and give your number 1.
All right. So no suspense here. Probably the most decorated WCW tag team. Stevie Ray, Booker T, otherwise known as the Harlem Heat, was one of my favorites, by the way. Loved it. Loved
Pro
him.
T called Hulk Hogan the N-word. One of the best moments in wrestling. It was so funny.
I love Booker T. You know, Booker T, he was in the ring last week, I believe.
Still go.
In phenomenal shape, had a great singles run. But it was great. The team was great because Stevie Ray, the bigger guy, the muscle, Booker T could move. He's a big guy. Golly, bum, he's big too. But I just love the team. I admire them being African Americans, wrestling at Road Wild at Sturgis. I saw that one of the matches they had with the Steiners at Sturgis. I watched that match. Man, wow. But these guys, I really, really liked them. I liked it when, let's see, at one point they had Sherry and Colonel Parker in their corner. But yeah, it's a great tag team. I loved everything about them back in the day.
Didn't mention Sensational Sherry. I mean, she
Yeah.
was for that team. Hey,
Yep.
Google the interview. Because even Booker T just busted laughing because he said it on bro. You could see him just go. I didn't say that on TV. Did I?
Oh man.
Hey,
But that's a great team. Good times.
something else about those guys. I got to see them on their tail end a little bit. I visited once or twice my friend Todd still worked for the WCW, and just great guys too. I mean, they were at the time they were just Texas boys. That's all they are. Is just and Booker T still on his podcast. I love his opinion. He has a different look. He has Booker T's School of Wrestling. Stevie Ray has talked about it. He was just done. He was just done with. They tried to revive Harlem Heat with Ahmed Johnson and Stevie Ray when Booker T had moved on, and you could just tell that Stevie Ray's heart never was in it.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit older than Booker T, but if there's a kid listening, remind you that Booker T spent a large portion of his youth in prison.
Yep.
And got to prison and done something phenomenal with his life. There's no excuse because nobody grew up worse than Booker T did, and God bless him. And I know some people might have hated it, but I absolutely loved. I mean, y'all know how much WWTV that just makes me sick. King Booker may be my favorite angle ever in the WWE. Just King Booker. I loved it. Love it.
Yeah, and then you pair him with his wife, Charmel.
King Booker. Booker. That was a great list. That one was really
Randy, go ahead and make it official.
Yeah, you got to make it official, Randy.
What's that?
You're number one. You got to make it official.
My number is Randy and Bill, the Mulkey brothers. Of course, it is Harlem Heat. Harlem. Hey, and guys, Harlem Heat went a decade.
Yep.
I mean, and did you ever see the first gimmick was so horrible that WCW had? I don't even know if you can find it, but basically they had Stevie Ray and Booker T wrapped in chains, dragging out with Colonel Rob Parker or something stupid, and you're just like, nobody's going to watch that and not just feel just bad. So the Harlem Heat really fit them, that you always thought the one thing I don't think Harlem Heat got credit for is how eloquent they spoke and how Booker T could really, really sell a promo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same old, I'm going to kick your ass this week in Omni on Tuesday. It was it was almost Dusty Rhodes in that he would tell a story inside of his promo. So I think Booker T, he'll not make anybody's top 5 promos, but he's an underrated promo very much.
Yeah. Can you dig it, sucker?
The spinneroonie now, that might be the dumbest shit I've seen too.
I
Sorry.
loved it. I loved it.
I hated it so much I loved it.
That's right. That's how this works.
And you never did, and you never got, and after the shows, they would get everybody's spinneroonie. And Taker says to this day, there was never a Taker spinneroonie, or there was never a Vince McMahon. No, there was a Vince McMahon spinneroonie, but there never was an Undertaker spinneroonie, which, to his credit, the Taker never did do the spinneroonie.
The Taker-rooney.
Yeah, the Taker-rooney.
All right, Howie,
Okay,
where
guys,
we going?
Jeremy mentioned something about it. Yeah, Jeremy. And they get done. Randy, you can go.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Howie. You want us to run through our honorable mentions, right? Go ahead, Jeremy.
All right, so yeah, I mean, a couple of these, and you mentioned a few, and I was like, oh wow, I forgot about these guys. So we talked about the skyscrapers. Did we lose Howie?
We did.
We'll
wait on.
I think he's having. Yeah, so we talked about the skyscrapers. I love the team. Here's one I watched a couple of matches, I believe, of these guys. But the wild-eyed Southern boys, Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong.
Yes, sir.
Great. I liked it. Now look, they'd get run out of the country today with that rebel flag and all that stuff going on. They were also known as the Young Pistols, I think, at one point.
Yeah,
but
even then that gimmick got old.
Yeah, but that was a good guys can work. Faces of Fear.
Yeah,
Ming and Barbarian, and I know we had the Warlord and Barbarian in the NWA top 5, but that's an imposing. That's another one of those guys when it comes to Ming that you hear that you better not mess with Ming, otherwise known as Haku, if I'm in the WWF, if I'm not mistaken. Here's one. You'll like this one. Pretty Wonderful.
Was on my at one point.
Really? Paul Roma and Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, Pretty Wonderful was on my list at one point. They were my number 10.
Paul Roma being a former Four Horseman also. Hey, Howie. So those were just a couple that I thought about.
All right, I got a couple. And we'll start with one that I really want. They just do it in a tag team long enough. The only reason they didn't make my old list is they did not win the WCW Tag Team Championship. Steven Regal, Bobby Eaton, the Blue Bloods. Very good. Hey, and the Blue Bloods was intentional. At one point had Triple H in it.
Yep.
At one point had Lord David Taylor in it, Squire David Taylor, and had Bill Dundee in it. And I think if they could have ever got that combination together on the screen, that would have been a monster fraction. So I'll give you the Blue Bloods. The next one I want to give you is just, it was Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck, but it's Dick Slater and Jimmy Golden and that wrestled for years. They won a WCW. That may be the toughest tag team of any of them. Dick Slater is a legendary fighter. So they were close to my list. Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan.
Oh boy.
That was a combination that ran in WCW for a while. Another one, Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman.
Yep, I had them.
I think I got one more on my list I wanted to talk about, and that'll. Where are they at? Because I'm looking. You already got the Faces of the Fear. Where did I have them? Oh, Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas,
Shane
former world
Douglas.
champions, and we lost Howie again.
Yeah, we lost him. I think he's
And
got some. There he is. Hey, there he is. Look,
look at him. Can you
Howie.
hear?
Howie's looking like $1,000,000 now.
You're on mute. Can you hear us now? He looks
Technical. He looked great. Technical difficulties.
a technical difficulty. Hey, that's
He,
whatever he did and cleaned up it a lot. So
Howie's doing run-ins on us. He's doing a run-in.
yeah. So Double J, before you get off here, maybe we get Howie back. You all, and I think Howie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can now.
Yeah, there he is.
I don't know what you did to your camera, but it's 100 times better.
I had to leave the computer and go to the phone.
Okay, well the phone looks better and sounds worse. So maybe we need to video on the phone and use the computer for say anyway, just joking. Y'all are going to the Ric Flair last match. Excited to see it. And hey, look, we ain't wrote me off yet. I keep jumping in the back seat and jumping out on y'all. Because I got football that Saturday, a jamboree. You excited about it, Jeremy?
Well, I mean, look, here's what really sold me on really wanting to go. Um, the card is great. The card. Take Ric Flair out of the equation. That's a great wrestling card. And they're adding now to this bunkhouse battle royal. I think so far, I think Crimson and Bully Ray are two of the 20 entrants in the bunkhouse battle royal.
I
But
saw that Storm. Cowboy James Storm, not Crimson.
yeah, Cowboy's in there. I did see that one. So I mean, when I started seeing the card, I wrote it off. I'm like, I might get it on Fight or something like that and watch it. But then I'm like, man, this is a dang good card. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything, and I like. Look, when they came out, and I don't know if you guys watched the full video, the second episode of this little video lead up to this match. They put an angle together with no TV or anything. This is how they set this up on the podcast, and then this video package. But look, I like it. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Ric Flair, and his son-in-law Andrade. I like it. I see people on social media crapping on it. He's gonna die, and hey, look, he's been training hard. He's been training hard. Hard Knock South. They had the guy on the video that he's been training, and he said, "Look, when we train people here, you got to want to be here." And he's been able to. He's training hard. It's a tag team match. He's not going to have to carry the whole load. So I'm looking forward to the match. Look, and I told Howie, I think I said this on the tape. Look, if they don't get into a woo off, him and Lethal, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be extremely disappointed because for me, that TNA little window with him and Jay Lethal, that's one of my favorite things ever that I've seen in wrestling. I just loved it. I thought it was
You to me.
awesome.
You can, Howie, what fired up to see?
Looking forward to seeing it. Just being able to say I was at Ric Flair's last match, basically.
Yep.
I've seen Flair in the past at different locations, and it's been great. But to be able to say that you were there for his supposedly last match, but we had talked about never say never in wrestling. He may end up at AEW doing something, and we talked about it the other day. WWE has put his woo back in the beginning of Raw. he may end up at,
Yeah.
who knows? It may be him and Vince McMahon at SummerSlam, or not SummerSlam, but the next pay-per-view, Survivor Series.
Yeah.
You never know in wrestling, but to be able to say that at this moment I'll be at his last match, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And being able to see the Briscoes in person as
Yeah.
well, because you don't know if they're ever going to be able to, you'll ever be able to see them in person around here anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So Howie, I did see this. I didn't mean to jump in, but I did see this that ROH, which we know is owned by Tony Khan, they did sign the Briscoes to a long-term contract. So I am hoping at some point we can see the Briscoes on the AEW TV.
They showed their pictures last night, and that
And they,
kind of built it up for me. I will tell you, and I'm early on everybody, but Mark and Jay, man, they're not early. If you ain't seen Mark and Jay, and they're still young, they're in their early 30s still.
yeah,
Been wrestling for 15, 16 years,
chicken farmers.
Mark and Jay will be in my top 5 whenever we do the U.S. Independent. And as an independent wrestling a tag team, and it matters where I land on what's independent and how much I let the AWA creep into it, they have a shot to be number 1. They're 13 times or 12 times Ring of Honor world champion. And in indie wrestling, Ring of Honor was the very top level of it. If you were Ring of Honor champion, that's where Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, and we could go through the list. Adam Cole. That's where all those guys come from.
I'm really wondering, because the ROH pay-per-view is Saturday night, and so they're wrestling FTR. The Briscoes are. I can't see them losing to FTR. I know FTR is hot, but I see them getting those titles and them coming into the card next week carrying those ROH tag team belts. That's what I.
Unfortunately, I think the world's not seen the best Briscoe, and the best Briscoe is Mark and Jay is a full-blown heel. And I think if they turn FTR, did something dirty, and then you go to Nashville and screw the Von Erichs, boy.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Hey, I like the Knockouts title match. Jordan Grace, Deonna Purrazzo, and then Rachel Ellering. I think that's going to be pretty good.
And that Impact World Championship match, Josh Alexander is long to be the best non-signed WWE, AEW best talent. And they even mentioned him on AEW a few times when he's a free agent, especially him and Adam Page. Ethan Page was in a tag team, the North, and dominated TNA Wrestling. And when Ethan Page signed at AEW, Brandy Rhodes, of all people, told him that, they couldn't get Josh Alexander, so they took his partner. So Josh Alexander is Joseph Fatu is the cousin of The Rock and Roman Reigns and Jimmy and Jay Uso. He is the son of, I believe it's Samu from the Samoan SWAT team. It's not one of the, it's not Rikishi but it's one of the cousins' brothers. So he's in the same bloodline as The Rock and Roman Reigns and all those guys. So I've talked too much now. Howie Chain?
I like the fact that Tony Khan, and I think he's trying to bring ROH into Rampage and kind of making ROH the Rampage on Friday nights, because if you watch it, which I know both of you do, 30 to 45 minutes of it is ROH talent wrestling.
Yeah, I think you make a good point that he's left some of the better wrestlers, but some of the better wrestlers are even though they're appearing in AEW, I feel like the ROH, they're making it so it's ROH talent brewing
Yep.
in AEW. Josh Grissom, Samoa Joe. I feel like they've clearly dressed him as an ROH wrestler. I still feel like Jay Lethal is an ROH wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I want to see more Jay Lethal. He's a great wrestler. I want to see him wrestle.
it's a shame Jay Lethal wasn't 2 inches taller. He'd be about a 10-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion because he's 5'9", 5'10". But he holds up. I mean, you look at him in camera, he's a bad man. Of course, they stand him next to whatever.
Satnam.
Yes.
Yeah. The difference between them, you think the dude is standing on a step ladder or something as so much taller than the other guys.
So I Lethal, and of course everybody knows him from his Macho Man impressions and his Ric Flair impressions, and again I love it. But if you just listen to his promos, the ones that I've seen on AEW TV, the other night when he ran and grabbed Jim Ross' headset and was holding it, and I've heard some people criticizing that. Well, he didn't know Cornette didn't know how to hold the headset mic because you got to use it. That's the whole idea. He just grabbed the mic, and so he's a good promo man. The guy can talk.
Going back to a couple of things you mentioned about the build up to the Ric Flair last match, there's 2 moments that show you how good Jay Lethal is to me. One is when Jeff Jarrett has Flair by the hair and he's talking to him, and then Lethal just lays over his body and starts screaming, "I loved you."
It was good.
It was great. And then it's so subtle, but it makes the moment when they're walking away and it's Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Karen Jarrett. Lethal turns and points back at Flair and starts just ranting. And Jarrett kind of pulls him away and pulls him on. To me, that makes it go from it's scripted to that's a real man having emotion because he's still mad.
Yeah.
So Jay Lee's one of those guys that makes me think, hey, this is real. He really hates Ric Flair now, I can go into my happy place with Jay Lethal and think, hey, I'm going to block out the world right now.
So the only thing here's it was kind of fun. It was funny. I think the video, that whole angle, I think it was good. I like it. That's the best. But here's what got me is Jarrett goes from trying to get Lethal off of him. And he's like, well, heck, he gets down on him and he starts beating. Of course, you know what? Flair almost done. It was heelish what he did. Because Jarrett's trying to help him. And he's like, get off me. I've never liked you or your dad. I mean, that to me, that's a heel thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me like Flair really in that. I'm like, hey, dude, he's trying to help you out. So I don't know. I thought it was great though. I mean, considering they don't have TV, they didn't, you don't have the ability like a wrestling company to build angle. I thought it was great.
A Jarrett in Nashville. There's something special about that. All right, Howie, you got your decision. Do we go U.S.? Do we go Japan? Do we go international? Don't call it Japan. Where would you like us to go next?
Well, to finish up on the WCW today, as bad as WCW was and everything, we have to thank them because they changed the wrestling business because of the fact of the NWO. That started a huge faction. They let Stone Cold Steve Austin walk. They let Triple H walk. They let The Undertaker walk. They let all these guys go to WWE. And look at what they done when they got to the WWE.
Yeah.
Beat their butts.
And if they would have stayed at WCW and WCW would have used them the way that they should have, we may be talking about WCW buying WWF back in the day instead of the other way around.
And the first night they beat them, guess what was the main event? Mick Foley wins the WWE Championship, a guy they ran off as Mankind.
Yeah.
And they gave away the results. And everybody flipped over to watch the WWF.
Yep.
You know, the big thing was just the dysfunction in the structure. It wasn't the wrestlers. I wouldn't even say it was creative. I think the thing that really put them under was the leadership. You know, the management that took place. It was the problem. They didn't have any direction, and have one person to say, "Hey, you know, we're going this direction."
And looking back, it was really Ted Turner selling off TBS to Time Warner with the death of WCW. And up to the day that they sold it to Vince McMahon, uh, Eric Bischoff and his partner Jason Hervey of the Wonder Years was buying WCW. TBS threatened to pull the TV with Bischoff and Hervey, and they turned around and sold it to the WWE, who wasted, to me, the most perfect opportunity to really do the invasion angle. Vince McMahon versus Shane McMahon. They had it set up and just didn't work it. So,
yeah.
You know, in my thoughts, I think the worst thing that happened to WCW was bringing Hulk Hogan in and letting him run the show, basically.
Mm-hmm.
When the NWO was hot, I'll go back to one match, and I'll still say this was the death of WCW. Halloween Havoc or it was Starrcade. You build and build and build, and you signed Bret Hart. And you put Bret Hart's first appearance as an enforcer to the Sting Hogan match. They get a finish where the referee's supposed to give Hogan a quick count on Sting. Hogan refuses, gets a normal count where he just pins Sting, obviously. Bret Hart jumps in the ring and said, "No, this is not going to happen like it did to me in Montreal. If you let that play out," and Pee Wee Anderson gives it a like that, and Bret Hart jumps up, takes over, and runs that match, and Sting beats Hulk Hogan, that is on par with Hulk Hogan beating Andre the Giant and passing the torch. And now you have something to build on. What ended up in that night, when the pay-per-view went off, you were like, well, Hogan beat Sting, and Bret Hart just jumped in there and started the match again. All because Hogan refused to let his shoulder be pinned cleanly.
Yeah, that's garbage. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Next week we will go to Japan and name your top 10.
This is New Japan, All Japan, right?
All Japan.
Anything.
Hey, there's something called war I might even get into.
Oh boy.
I will tell you that Terry Gordy will be on the list multiple times, and the Road Warriors will be on the list multiple times. No, you can't put the Road Warriors on there multiple times. There's a lot of Americans going to make my list.
I agree.
Terry Funk.
Next week we'll go to Japan. It's New Japan, All Japan, Everything Japan, and it'll be the top 10. And best of luck to y'all guys. And I'm looking forward to reading some of the texts that y'all send in the group chat. Some of the ones y'all will send individually. So that's cool. So it's
sounds like we're asking you for advice, but not wanting the other one to know it.
Absolutely, and I'm getting a kick out of it. I love it, guys. I really do.
How many times do we ask about the same team?
Probably a lot.
yeah, quite a bit.
Hey, us graybeards, we're thinking we're not far off in any of these. We haven't been far off.
The only difference we had is I didn't have Road Warriors on my list, but the
list and I'm not gonna lie, as I sit here right now, I wish I hadn't put them on that list, because I put them on the list for the reason that I left off, or I've dropped the Midnight Express. You know, I wish I just went somewhere else. But I mean, Road Warriors. What do you say?
Tell you was wrong, and you'll fix your list the next week if you want me to.
You know, Sting and Luger should have been on this list. Instead, I got my time period messed up. But anyway.
You did a great job. I'm enjoying this. Hey, are we going to do, after we get finished with tag teams, are we going to go individual or are we going to go factions?
I say we do factions, but
I
Howie,
think
you're the boss.
too.
No,
Let
that's fine with me. But we still got several more tag teams to do. So
Oh, I know. I just want to, this gives me some direction so that I know where we're going.
Randall's doing extensive research, hours upon hours.
I don't know how much time I spend on the toilet, but it's increased since we started this project because that's where I do all my reading.
Well, hey, at least you're regular too. So I'm.
Not a thing wrong in this old boy.
it's the factions is going to be great to see where y'all list 2 through 10 because I'm pretty sure one is going to be the same for both of you, but 2 through 10 should be interesting.
It will, and I will say this. I think I know who number 1 is, but I'm going to let it play out in my head because there is a couple, and one of them from Japan. I think rivals. I really do. I'll say that the New World Order, the Bullet Club, and the Horsemen in my head are right there together.
Bullet Club.
And Bullet Club, the version that everybody's seen the last 2 or 3 years. I'm talking about Bullet Club with Finn Balor and AJ Styles.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty sweet. Also, last words tonight. Boys, we've done 80,000 views between these shows and our news letter. And I just want to, well, I don't guess it's 80,000 views. Let's call it 80,000 reads between the newsletter and stuff. I just want to thank everybody. We do this show. We do a very serious sports show on here, but we do this show because we love doing it. And this one is, if you saw the text group, you'd realize how much we're just doing a labor of love. We're doing this. And when I go back and look at this show every week, I always feel like if you love wrestling, this has got to be one of your favorite podcasts. So if you love wrestling, thank you for joining us. I had comments coming in before the show was even posted about who the best tag team is. And that shows you.
Oh,
People
sweet.
And care and stuff. So if you give us 5 minutes of your time, and we've had as many as 10 people on here not live, you give us 5 minutes of your time, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Thank you. I mean, that's your time. That's your time to relax. And it's not, you're not doing it for good looks because this may be the ugliest group in. Looking at we're set up for a vocal only podcast. I don't know how we.
Hey, I take offense to that. Speak for yourself, Randall.
Me too. Really offended.
Hey, I really resemble that mark that you just made.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
are this podcast to the Salt and Pepper Wrestling Club because that's what it is.
Real quick to let the viewers know, and y'all may be thinking that we're just joking about all these texts and stuff. I literally left my phone on the desk today in my office, walked out and did some stuff. When I came back, I had 19 missed texts. 15 of them was from the guys on my left and right.
About 12 of them was from Randall.
And 11 of them was spelt wrong, and I can still for the superstar, the QB1, for Howie Cheney on the top of Sand Mountain, and for the football stud, the 5 Red Devil, Double J. I don't know where the Blue Devil from.
That's Etowah.
The Red Devil, Double J. We are off the record, and come see us next week, and we'll have a heck of a debate next week. This is Randall. Good night. God bless.